The topic of this discussion isn't easy to talk about, and it shouldn't be. Stuff like this never should be. There's a clear villain, and there's several clear victims, but there's a lot of mud and gray in between. It's been about a month, more or less, since it's all went down. And the fallout is still incredibly just palpable, especially to the people that were involved with him. I only met him the one time, and we had a good interaction, the three of us. John was a good buddy of his. They roomed together. But, it's like, not to sound generic, but it's true. You never know. You can be whatever, like, nationality or religious domination, whatever you want, but everyone has the potential to be a scumbag, and everyone has the potential to be good. But ToonKritic, this issue is really interesting for me because it's the way it went down and the fallout for it that's really got me thinking a lot of thoughts about the fandom and about, I guess, just bronies in general in a way. But we'll get to that as we go along. My name's Snakeskin. We're the Undercover Brony. This is John.
Hello.
Let's talk about ToonKritic.
So, I first want to say that no, we are not making this video in regards to viewership, because in all honesty, the last video I made kind of regaling my involvement, I did not expect it to get that many views. And I don't want it to feel like we are trying to gain views from this, because that's not our intention.
This video is cathartic in a lot of ways, because for John it's personal, and for me it's more, I don't want to say meta, because I feel like meta is not really a serious word, at least the way it's used anymore. But in a way, when we message each other, I could just tell it's really just been bothering us. And, we're not victims. ToonKritic didn't hurt either of us. It did bum me. It bummed me out and pissed me off, especially after we had that one great video together a couple of years ago. And, we had our laughs, we had our jokes, and the dude knew how to critique something, and I watched several of his videos. He was definitely able. He was not like Tommy Oliver or DigiBrony. He had his intellectual reservations, but the dude was able to, at least in videos, remain pretty unpretentious for the most part. And he's red. Red's my favorite color. So, but for me, ToonKritic he highlights a problem that's been very precedent in a lot of fandoms, and this one in general, but he's really just a representation of several things how I feel. This fandom is huge. It still is. The viewership is huge. The communities are huge. There's still a million different artists and musician bronies. Granted, it's kind of died down, especially considering Everfree Radio went off the air, but which was a long time ago. And Final Draft and all them, we had problems with them, but they were to a degree a cornerstone of the fandom. But all of that was kind of contained in one place. Then when the analytical community took off and they bit the dust, it was a new era for the fandom. It was one that wasn't really so much about expressing and celebrating the creativity of the show and its fans. It was about critiquing it and trying to look at the different altruistic values and symbolisms of the show and see who could top the most, be like, who could be the most intellectual, like who can understand My Little Pony the best, who can understand Evangelion the best, who plays Persona 5 better, stuff like that. It was this different breed of fans that took over. And it's a certain breed that I don't want to come off like I dislike these type of people, because I don't. But this era of like role players and like, I don't want to say furries, but persona types, everyone started using their avatars. All the bronies started looking a little different. They started acting different. The fandom was already weird, but back in the day, the weirdness would have been used to amplify the creativity. But then the weirdness became more about, who could be weird and quirky enough. And the thing about weird and quirky people is that things like weirdness and normality, I fully believe are subjective, but weird people into weird things is still weird any way you look at it. And ToonKritic, I don't mean to profile, but I mean the silly hat, the pony OC, the type of facial hair, the types of jokes he made. He was very clearly one of those types of folks. He was very clearly one of those forum and role playing and seedy type of folks. I didn't know how seedy, but I remember thinking to myself, yeah, this guy's probably yiffed before, but whatever, he's cool. And those are the type of people that really took over the fandom about 3 years ago. And I've said this to the Steven Universe fandom. I've said this to the Overwatch fandom. The problem with priding your fan base on being open, and especially this one, I mean, everyone remembers the first two things you heard when you were a brony was welcome to the herd and love and tolerate, is that you give twisted people a safe space. You give them a safe zone, because then they can kind of muddle and finger around until they find like-minded people, till they find all this, till they find their own safe spaces within the safe spaces. And obviously everyone's into things that aren't really on the cuff, but there's a specific thing that ToonKritic did that I firmly believe in. And if people don't like, I know we're supposed to do the whole, if you don't agree with me, then, that's your prerogative. But no, if whatever, he's the kind of person that it wasn't so much manipulation. It was indoctrination almost. I've heard the three biggest examples are of course the woman that came forward, but also this one YouTuber named Massacre Molly and Spoken Reason's girlfriend. Not Spoken Reason, Voice of Reason's girlfriend. And and I'm going to focus on their testimonies real quick. Other testimonies I've heard from other ones comes down to similar things like, oh, he was weird, or he made a pass at me, he sent me some weird DMs, and blah, blah, blah. First, before I talk about the actual victim, the one that came, not the actual victim, like she was not the only victim. Before I talk about her, I want to analyze these two real quick. Both of them had a very similar story. They were with someone and they fooled around with ToonKritic. Massacre Molly's is pretty messed up, because off and on for apparently 4 years, which would have been from 2013, so that's season 3. They went back and forth with role playing and all this fantasy drivel that people really get into as a substitute for reality. And she said that he was emotionally manipulative. She lied to him. I mean, he lied to her, this and that. He talked bad about her multiple times. and she cheated on her boyfriend with him. Same with Spoken Reason. Voice of Reason. I don't remember. I watched her thing, and she didn't go into too many specifics. Voice of Reason's girlfriend, unless she's a really good actress, hers sounds the super most legit. Like, not to sound callous or nothing, but hers actually sounds the most real, just the way she was speaking. And I remember her saying that they were doing a stream and they were drinking and whatever, and then they started flirting. And that's what set my mental perspective off. And I know someone's going to see this and think, oh, this is a guy that blames the victims, or this is a guy that blames the women. No, I'm not. This is... These women were in, and I know it's not it's only these two, because I've heard virtually every testimony out there that everyone's putting forward, even from the people that have like 2 subscribers and they put out videos. And it's like, infidelity is a big no-no for me, because I know what it's like to be lied and cheated to and whatever. And granted, granted, Voice of Reasons forgave his girlfriend and whatever, but the massacre lady broke up with her boyfriend, and it's like, and they said they made mistakes, this and that, but they still want to try and put all the blame on ToonKritic, because trust me, I read any DMs that were leaked. The dude's a manipulative bastard, but at the same point, we're all adults. Well, except the victim that came forward. Most of us were adults. Most of us are between 19 and 20 something. And it's like, I don't understand why. I don't understand how, not that people let it happen, but I don't understand why people's minds can't break them out of this, especially when it's gone on for years, especially the Spoken Reason thing. When, and Spoken Reason's like, he's dead to me. He's dead to me. It's like, yeah, I bet he would be. I really bet he would be. And she's like, I admit I did this, and maybe I this. And it's like, there's no maybe about it. You cheated on your goddamn boyfriend for 3 years. And I'm not saying I don't sympathize with her, but I'm trying to paint a picture here. That was with consenting adults, for the most part. Consenting adults. And that part, those type of testimonies, those are the ones I take with grains of salt. Because it's like, you're old enough and you have the mental capacity enough to know, hey, this is wrong, this is bad. I mean, Voice of Reason's girlfriend straight up said that they sent pictures back and forth. Same with Massacre Molly. But I'm being harder on them because they were consenting adults. And it's like, and I was telling John, like, realistically, the only thing that was at stake for them was internet reputation. And it's internet reputation. It's not like any of the people involved were making their living off being YouTubers or anything. So I don't understand why they didn't come forward anyway. The Josh Scorcher thing, because that's going to lead to this. That's a whole nother thing that we'll get into in a bit. But we and all that Dr. Wolf crap about forgiveness. So that was between consenting adults. Now, about the victim that came forward, this is where, to me, he really came across as a scumbag, because I live in a very liberal part of California. Now, trust me, I'm no conservative. Trust me, I've got a million reasons to hate both political parties, but I bring that up because around here, people believe the whole, oh, age is just a number. I'm 23. And I have an older friend in his 30s who's like, I've been with women that have been, what did they say? They were like, I've been with women younger than you and older than you, than when whatever. And I'm like, okay, if that's something to be proud of, whatever. And my thing, and I have another friend, tattoo lady. She's like 22, but she ran off to be with her like 36-year-old boyfriend in Philadelphia. And I had this, and this plays into the victim thing. Trust me, I'm not using this as an excuse for some bullshit soapbox. The reason why I call bullshit is because either way you look at it, whether it's older man, younger woman, or younger man, older woman, there's manipulation on both sides. And you can see it in the DMs that ToonKritic sent to the victim. He says every single goddamn thing that a young kid wants to hear. You should be more rebellious. You shouldn't let your parents control you. You're strong. You're independent. You're smart. You're this. You're that. You're great. You're blah, blah, blah. Just feeding them stuff. And that's what the older people do. They feed the younger kids all these lies, these straight up lies that they're somehow more. Oh, they say shit just like this. They're like, you're real mature for your age. Oh, wow, you've got a good head on your shoulders, and you're this young. Wow. They say shit like that. And that's what he did. There's manipulation on the younger kid's side, too. Not in this particular case, but there can be. Because, first off, if the younger kid seduces the older kid, if the younger seduces the older, they have a cop-out. They can claim rape or manipulation or whatever and get out of it. That's not what she did, and I'm not saying she is that, but I'm just pointing that out there to keep in the back of your minds. Now, the younger people are always like, wow, you know, you're so fun and you really get me and this and that. And they pretend they're having a bond, but mentally they're playing games with each other. And that's what ToonKritic did with the main victim. It was all just a fucking game to him. And then he breaks up with like more or less all of these other girls, with some of the girls, because he has a boyfriend, but then he cheats on the boyfriend with the girls, and some of the girls he's been in online relationships with, only to cheat on them with his boyfriend IRL. So on top of all of that, then you've got the people that more or less knew about it but did nothing. I don't want to be another person that throws stones at Josh Scorcher's glass house, but he's one of the best examples. And I watched his video on it. I watched Dr. Wolf's before and after video, and I don't think that they didn't say anything because of the fact of internet fame. No, I truly believe that they wanted to get all their facts straight, because being in the military, especially, you know, Scorcher would have an idea of what the law process is like, or rather, he would have a better idea. So going with that, my thing is the shit they were talking about forgiveness, and you know, they brought the whole religion thing into it. And here's my thing: I'm a man of God, but there's a certain line where he's like, where he's like to forgive is to forgiveness is not to accept their apologies or integrate them back in life or whatever. And it's like, the only one that I've heard testimonies from that has a right to never forgive is pretty much the one that started all this. I can't speak for the other ones because I'm 50-50 on them, but it's like, oh, we need to move on and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what? Why? That's what gets me about all these channels. They either want to lynch him and they're called assholes, which, I mean, yeah, don't kill the guy, you'll go to jail. But the rest of them are like, we should forgive and forget and move on. And it's like, you know, that's always been this fandom's fucking bullshit with me. They always try to be like, oh, this person said this thing and they were real assholes about it. Whoa, really? Should we unsubscribe and tell him how we feel? Well, no, he's got more subs and views, so it's whatever. It's like when Tommy Oliver rage quit the fucking fandom, and he basically called everyone that still liked the show or a certain episode a bunch of sheep. He posted an 1.5-hour rant about this fandom. And some of his points were actually valid. People in this fandom are either too conceited or they're so socially inept that they don't know how to deal with they either don't know how to deal with criticism or they don't know how to deal with moving on. And that's what really bugs me about ToonKritic. He didn't really do anything bad to this fandom. His actions were horrible, but really he just played the system that this fandom let in place because he was a weird, funny, quirky guy. He had his internet friends, he had his subs and views and his loyal fan base. And so if he did stuff like this, he would have that first line of defense. I mean, the screenshots are what did him in, but but yeah, so this fandom seems to pride itself on like we're an open community, and same thing with other fans. And it's like if you allow the fandom to be that open, you're gonna allow freaks to get in the fandom, and that's what ToonKritic is. The dude's a goddamn freak. He's a smart freak, but he's a fucking freak, and it's like this fan. It's like everyone is so pretentious about every single thing. Those season 1 and 2 elitists. It's all this. All this has really just made me realize the type of just pure favoritism bullshit in this fandom. And of course, this is in every fandom. It's in every goddamn fandom. But the fact of the matter is that no, you shouldn't forgive ToonKritic. You shouldn't forget about ToonKritic. You shouldn't be at peace with it. You need to hate this guy. But honestly, you need to hate the fandom for allowing this to happen. You need to be mad at people for allowing this to happen. You need to be mad at the people that went along with it when they were in relationships, and you need to be mad at ToonKritic for playing everyone like a goddamn fiddle, because that's what he did. He knew what he was doing, and he thought he could get away with it. And you know what? If it wasn't for those screenshots, he probably fucking would have. And Kevin Spacey getting pinched last year has inspired a lot of people to come forward, which is great and everything. But realistically, people in this fandom have done shiftier, shadier, shittier stuff before. I mean, does anyone not remember the power vacuum that was the Everfree Radio Network? Does anyone not remember the bullshit that was going on with cons, the fights people were getting in, the plagiarism, the favoritism, the way Everfree Radio had a monopoly on all the cons, the way other people in the fandom belittled other people in the fandom and all this stuff. It's like this whole fandom is just one giant mess, but people try to pretend it wasn't. It is. It always has been. And the fact that, and honestly, I'm surprised people are surprised that ToonKritic did it. Honestly, because trust me, look at me. I'm a fucking fat guy with a soul patch and a Kingdom Hearts sweatshirt with a Beatles poster and a signed autograph of John Cena. If someone wanted to take pieces of that and be like, wow, this dude's probably weird, yeah, I'd agree with you, because I'm fucking weird. But ToonKritic was weird too. But people try to imagine that weirdness and quirkiness is actually a state of normalcy. They're like, well, what is normal? Normal and dull people are the ones that are insane and scary. And it's like, okay, even if we were to roll with that, not every person manipulates a fucking 16 or 14, however the shit old she was, into a 12-year-old into a psychological fucking mess and whatever. And I would truly love for people to try to tell me, well, because imagine if they were in a relationship. Imagine if none of this came forward, but what did come forward was that he was in a relationship with her. I guarantee you would be people that are like, well, age is just a number. Fuck you. There is nothing good about what he does. There's nothing good about what he does. There's nothing good about people like him that do that. There's nothing good about people that sexual role play baby diaper fetishes. There's nothing okay with people that get off on autoerotic cannibalism. There's nothing okay with anything about this. There are some things that are just not okay. And there's plenty of things in this fandom that have not been okay. But everyone just always tries to turn a blind eye to it. They're always like, well, this fandom sure has its down points, but every fandom does. And you know what? That's what makes us special. No! That's what people make us look like, a bunch of freaks. When you have either some really fat dude or skinny dude, or fat chick or skinny chick, they've got their bad facial hair and acne and stuff, and they're like, well, I just got the new Pinkie Pie action figure and all these bracelets. Look at me. Look how proud I am. I'm a brony. I'm attention seeking. It's like, and they act surprised when people give them negative attention. That's the way of the goddamn world. People think we're a bunch of autistic neck-bearded freaks. And some of us are. Some of us goddamn are. If I wasn't at a job where I had to shave my hair, I'd probably still have my beard. But the point I'm trying to get across is that the fandom's always been like this. I guarantee if you looked even deeper, you could probably find shady shit about AC Race Best and Dusty Cat.
Yeah.
Fuck. This whole thing pisses me off because this is the norm. But some people act like bronies are so above it all. No, we're goddamn not. Not when Scoot Abuse has like 20-some thousand tags in Derpy Buru. Not when people drive rape scat porn, and not when people are like, well, I drew it, but it's my artistic expression. Let people believe what they want. Let people write fan fictions where Rainbow Dash has sex with underage Scootaloo. And it's like, no, that's not okay. If it's written in the context of the story that it's not okay, that's fine. But people try to imagine that all this weird countercultural stuff is okay. No, it's not. Getting pissed on for sexual amusement is not okay. And some people are like, well, why do you got to tell people how to live? I'm not telling you how to live. I'm telling you that if you're into this weird shit that is fucking weird, you're going to get criticism for it that you probably deserve, but you shouldn't act like some fucking martyr. That's what ToonKritic and all of them do. They act like they're martyrs because they're weird. They're like, look how different and unique I am. I'm so weird and quirky. I should be put on a pedestal to put up against the appropriate American image of some tall, slender man and some sexy, busty lady. It's like, no, you're not being counterculture. You're just being weird. And you allow people like ToonKritic to fester and get in people's minds and hurt them and damage them. Fuck ToonKritic. Fuck all of it, okay? I like this fandom, and I love this show, goddammit. But seriously, if anything, ToonKritic actually needed to be ousted as a pedophile, because maybe now the bronies can get off this goddamn pedestal they've been on for a long time. Fuck.
I definitely know there's a lot of really bad stuff in this fandom. In fact, this is something that Lily Pete brought into her video, and I feel like it does need to be said here as well. That the biggest thing when it comes to how messed up this fandom can be is that we have our own version of pedophilic art, and that is Fullcon. Currently, there is 13,097 images of Fullcon on Derpy Buru.
But it's okay because they're just expressing their art, and even if the artist doesn't like it, like that Shadband guy on Tumblr, it's just for the people that have those fetishes. That's not okay, god damn it! What is so hard to understand?
See, the problem is, whether it's pony or not, it's still very dangerous territory. If you see this, we've seen it all. People getting jailed for child pornography. This is basically child pornography. Like, there's no way to mince that. This is basically child pornography. And the fact that this is such a prevalent part of the fandom is really shocking. Because when I came into this fandom, I saw people that were happy. I saw people that had an outlet to express themselves. But when you choose to express yourself in that sort of way, that's honestly terrifying. There are there are kids in this fandom. There are children in this fandom. And the fact that I guarantee you, cons are going to get hit hard by this. Because from what I've been seeing, a lot of kids looked up to ToonKritic. And now that he's been ousted as a pedophile, there's going to be a lot of parents that do not want to take their kids anywhere near any of these conventions. And for fear of who else could be. And this fandom has changed a lot.
People try to
Some of
pretend
it good.
hasn't. People try to pretend it hasn't, but it has. It's kind of changed a little bit every year since I've been in it in 2012, but it has. You know, it's fucked up. For as much shit as we talked about them, the downfall really started happening once Everfree Radio bit the dust.
Mm-hmm. When I came in 2012, it was a great place. People were just seeing this as just that, an outlet to express themselves. But the outlet of expressing yourself through any form of criminal activity is wrong on every single level. And the fact that there are people that are trying to say, let's forgive, I understood where they were coming from, because I myself am a Christian as well. I understand the Christian context of forgiveness. But the secular definition of forgiveness is vastly different, and it is much, much more about the forgive and forget aspect. And the problem is, we can't mince words here. What ToonKritic did was terrifying. It was horrid, and it's something that the authorities need to take care of. But I do want to say one thing about this fandom, is that there is still good in it. I've been seeing a lot of people that have left the fandom due to this, and that's totally understandable, because this was a huge blow. But I do want to say, for the people who are calling out for ToonKritic's blood, who are saying, if he shows his face anywhere near, we're going to kick him to where he's literally bleeding on the floor, waiting to die. And to the people that say, I want to kill him, we are better than that. Yes, he did a horrible, horrible thing. But are you any better by trying to say that you want to kick his ass to the point where he was bleeding on the floor? Are you any better for trying to say that you want to kill him?
You know, that, you know, a lot of people like the Punisher from Marvel because of the fact that if he sees a scumbag, he kills him. And even taking out the fact that he's a comic book character, you know, it's consistently pointed out that, you know, even if you can put him in prison like Batman, or you could kill him like the Punisher, the fact remains is that it still doesn't solve the problem, because you could kill every pedophile in the world, and I don't know if it's a genetic thing or a mental thing, or maybe that's the same thing. But the point is that short or long-term solutions, it's a stigma that you can't really end, you know. And granted, Punisher's killed like millions of people, but he's brought it up before that he can stop crime for a bit, but he can't end crime. Well, same thing with this. If you were to beat the shit out of ToonKritic, all that would happen is you'd get arrested. And honestly, it would, if you beat the shit out of him, it would benefit him, because then he could take you into court and take you for money, and you're arrested. So,
yeah. See, forgiveness, especially when it comes to something like this, is not the answer, because, again, it's something that people are going to have to take time and grieve over. And it's also something that can't be solved through forgiveness. However, we need to be bigger people about this. Because yes, he did a horrible thing, but trying to kick his ass or kill him is not going to solve anything, like Snakeskin said. We need to be bigger people than that. Because right now, he is in custody with the authorities. I don't know if he has been jailed yet, but I do know that he did turn himself in. And we need to understand that also, to the victims who have been hurt by his manipulations, especially the ones who have been hurt by manipulation of, I'll get you in with my close circle of friends in exchange for this. We are sorry. Because this was a horrible thing that did happen. I want to give a little bit of my own personal story for this, because I feel that it should be said. I first met ToonKritic in November of 2014. It was the first Ponyville Cider Fest, and he needed a room, so we offered him for him to come stay with us. One of the first things I was noticed was that I found out about a day into the con that ToonKritic had not paid his share of the room. And he was about to buy a splurge of items. And he was about to splurge his money. I had to go up to him and explain very clearly that he needs to pay us first, and then he can splurge. Because as of that point, that was not going to be acceptable. Now, he did relent at that point, thankfully. The next thing I remember is about the day after that. We were just sitting in the room. And what does he pull up for a good laugh? A very horribly written clop fiction. And he starts reading that to the group. Now, I thought nothing of it, because I'm like, hey, whatever. If it's funny, it's funny. In fact, there's panels at these conventions that do that. So again, I thought nothing of it. A few months go by, and Brian and I go down to Dave & Buster's to go celebrate, I believe it was his birthday. We're over there, and through some way, somehow, we found out that he switched the ticket buckets between him and Brian. And actually, Brian was not happy about it, and it turned into an argument, but nothing was really ever resolved. And when this came out, after everything with cartoons, after everything with Howl the Edge, it didn't really stop. It got to the point where it just kind of became commonplace for him. When I heard about this, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to think that this actually had happened. I listened to the video, and I looked at the screenshots, and what I found horrified me. Because then I started being able to piece the puzzle together and see that, yeah, this shit has been here all along. But I didn't see it until just now. And I even told Brian, you were right to mistrust him. After seeing this, you were absolutely right. And that's why I had to come out with that previous video of blocking all content of his. because I did think he was my friend. And seeing this, I no longer want to be associated with that. Snakeskin, unless you have something else you want to add, I feel that's about what I need to say.
It's a bitter pill, but just how do I put this? Just keep the ones you care about close. Keep the ones that you care about and that you know you can trust close. But don't be too trusting, because there's plenty of snakes in the grass that can and will take advantage, and they're hard to see, but they're there. And unfortunately, Critic was one of those snakes. You know, everyone makes mistakes, and pretty much everyone involved in this has made a mistake. The victims, the perp, and probably even us, really, to a certain degree. But how do I put this? I'm not saying don't trust anybody, but just
keep a wary eye.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're better off alone.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but do be careful with who you associate.
Now, you know what? Don't
with.
be alone, because I learned the hard way. Loneliness doesn't do a damn thing for you. You need to have your friends. You need to be the one, have the ones you're close with. But I guess just what I would say is, this shouldn't discourage someone from reaching out again in the fandom and trying to connect with other bronies and even other people. There's someone or some groups out there of friends, and maybe more, maybe less, that one day you'll meet and it'll click. And, you know, there won't be any weird vibes when you first meet them. There won't be any distrust at the things you say. There won't be any second guessing when they tell you stuff. Because I have the true companions in my life. And I can tell you, especially if you're someone especially if you're someone whose mentality is really as messed up as mine, it's going to be tough. It'll always be tough, but it does get easier. And this ToonKritic thing, it's not really don't look at it as a block or like a wall. Consider it more an obstacle, because you can't go around a wall and you can't always climb a wall, but you can go around, go over, or go through an obstacle. And like, to the people that he hurt, this is going to stay with them for a long time. And the mistakes that were made between everybody, they're going to think about it for the rest of their days. And contrary to some people that say life is short, life can last a long time. And that's a long time to have all this bullshit in someone's head. So I guess, I would say be wary, but at the same time, never give up on your own aspirations and just appreciate the small things. But also be prepared to make tough calls, because you never know who will be your best friend, but you also never know who's going to burn you. It's not really advice, but it just kind of sums up the emotional clusterfuck of cornucopia that this whole mess has brought in. At first, I was more mad at ToonKritic for breaking the fandom, but I don't know. Maybe we needed some fucked up bullshit like this to pull us back into reality, and because escapism doesn't last forever. this show isn't going to last forever. And maybe this isn't like last legs or on life support, but maybe now we can all take a step back, wind down, look past the art, look past the copyrights, look past the reactions, look past the critics, and just remember, Walt Disney always said it all started with a mouse. Well, it all started because of ponies. And I think this fandom forgot that for a long time. That it was about the ponies. I think for a while it wasn't about him. I think it was about more what people thought about the ponies, or how people would interpret the ponies or draw the ponies. So the ponies were still there. I know I'm saying ponies a lot, but the ponies were still there, but it wasn't the main meat. But looking at season 8, I'm almost optimistic because maybe it'll just be a case of everyone's just watching a pony show. Because at the end of the day, that's what this was for me. It's just a good cartoon.
One last thing I'll say before we end off here. With heavy heart and sentiment, we want to say from both me and Snakeskin 94 that we are grieving with you. But this will pass. It's going to take some time. But we can move past this. We can push through.
All things must pass. That is the will of the Force. Not trying to ruin the moment, but I mean, that quote does have some merit to it. I mean, that's nature.
Great. So, that's it from me, John.
Me, Snakeskin.
We'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.